All right, so I had a realization this week, and essentially revolved around which song I wanted to perform and practice. So, like you heard, this week I performed Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy, and I really love that song to perform it and everything. But initially, at the beginning of the week, I wanted to continue practicing the song I performed last week, so La Campaniella by Friends List. But here's the thing I realized this week is I hate, like with a passion, a burning passion, La Campaniella. Like hashtag I'm a hater, right? And I just couldn't bring myself to perform that song. I didn't want anything related to it. And but I also believe that there's value in practicing stuff that you hate, right? Like essentially mental value, right? You're persisting through something challenging. So there's this like this um like I guess dialectic framework between something I enjoy and something I don't enjoy. And Aristotle has like this philosophical concept called eudaimonia, and essentially what it means is like fulfillment in life through like a flow. So in the grander picture of like what Aristotle's work, essentially it's about finding virtue through like an equilibrium of like different qualities, right? So all you find fulfillment through discipline, but not only through discipline, through happiness and like community, like all these virtues you need to incorporate in your life in a moderate way. And this equilibrium makes you fulfilled in life, right? So that's like essentially like Aristotle's work. And eudaimonia, how you how in this grand picture is finding fulfillment not through like your um, achievements, but more through like this flow, this quiet flow, and you find growth in it, right? So if you find your work enjoyable, that means that there's an equilibrium that you found in your work. So I think that that's valuable, this like philosophical framework. But there's on the other hand, there's also like a more rigorous and disciplined philosophy, and like the best way I could describe it is like I don't know if you guys know about like this movie, Whiplash. Like the main character wants to be like a top jazz drummer, right? And he's not enjoying practicing, but um he's like going over his like feelings of like fulfillment. He's pushing himself through that, and like there's like this really notorious scene of him like drumming through the night, and his hands are beginning to bleed. Right, so that's another approach, and generally, I think these are both valuable approaches. So how it relates to the songs I wanted to play, like obviously Whiplash, the more rigorous approach would be like me persisting through a song I don't enjoy, but the more fulfilling would be me playing through Claude Debussy, right? And essentially, it's all about discipline. Um, like because I made a deal with myself to be disciplined, so it doesn't matter which song I perform because I'm gonna play it nonetheless, right? But what still, like I was debating on which one I wanted to play. So what I realized is it made me think about a book I've read like a few years ago, and it's by a Jewish psychologist or psychologist. I don't remember. Viktor Frankl, and his book is the name of the book is Man's Search for Meaning, And essentially it's about his recollection of like his he's a Jewish person who survived through the Holocaust, right, in the concentration camp. And it's about his experience and his like the testimony of like all the people surrounding him. A lot of them have died, but like in his book he's detailing like what the grand picture that he took out from this experience, like how we can implement this um, in our lives, even though we don't usually experience something this tragic in our lives, right? So what he's detailing is about everyone has like this sense of, even though you're living through the most tragic and the most brutal um, experiences that a person can possibly live, right? Like in a Nazi concentration camp, you lose your dignity. You you're being tortured. You have no hygiene. You're basically left. You're like treated like animals, right? And animals is like the like polite way to describe it. You're being tortured and like slaughtered. A lot of people die. So why do people persist through it? That's what his book is all about, right? And what he's essentially saying is like most of the people there have lost hope. Like if when you're surrounded by death at this level, you lose hope of surviving. That's not what makes people continue enduring all these atrocities. He's saying that people kind of transgress this um, level of hope, and they kind of transcend into a more to more absolute truths, right? Instead of being kind of attached to this worldly matter, you kind of transcend to more like grandeur and like more meaningful in some ways, something broader than your own life. And what are these more abstract truths? He's saying that even though people lost hope of a better life, people kind of attach themselves to like the past experiences they've had, and they kind of condense all the good that they've learned throughout their lives, like concepts like love, right, friendship, um, family, community, or even like religion. Also, like these concepts kind of transcend your own life and like your own well-being, right? And it's not like you believe you'll go back to these truths like in the future, but these are ingrained in your being, in your core, and they kind of give meaning in not in practical way, but more in a spiritual way. Yeah. um so that's essentially what his book details. And um he has like a famous quote: he who has a why can bear anything, or something to that effect. I know it's a weird phrase, a weird quote, but that's what the book can be distilled to. So how it relates to our lives and like to the, I mean, it's a piano video. So how it did, yeah, it's a piano video. So how it you can I apply it is through like because in our lives, when we get too comfortable, you kind of get like this illusion like free agency, right? You think your actions are what matter. So I kind of realize that you kind of sometimes get too focused on like what's the right approach, right? should I What's the right values, or what's the right way of performing an action, right? or what, not performing an action, but like to live your life, because you have this perception that you live in a world and you're a free agent in it, right? But when, to go back to the concentration camp, you lose this free agency. You have no control over your life. So you kind of you kind of transcend into a more spiritual world, right? Where you realize that don't you don't have an impact on the world, and in the way that is directly affecting you, if it makes sense. You kind of, when you get too comfortable, you think that you are your own master, but on the other side, you realize that the world is your master. You're reacting to the world, right? So why is that important to keep in mind? Is because if you take the approach of that Viktor Frankl's details in his book, is if you realize that the world is you kind of you're ingrained in, you're embarking like in a journey like that is grander than yourself, you kind of adopt a more approach that's more centered to meaning, right? You kind of question what is the meaning of your life. And to go back, so that made me think, why am I playing the piano? So to circle back at the beginning, why am I playing the piano, right? And what I realized is, it's not just why am I playing the piano, it's why am I living? And that's questions that everyone's asking themselves, right? Like, why cook? Why walk at night outside? Why take like a walk outside? Why, I don't know, playing soccer with your friends or tennis or whatever? Is it gonna bring yourself to achieving like specific goals that you have? Or is it more about like this spiritual quest that everyone's on, right? Of living like a holistic life that's fulfilling and in an equilibrium, right? Like you want to develop like your life in multiple ways. And what I realize is the reason why I'm playing the piano is that's another chapter of my life in some sense, like aspect of my life. I devote a lot of time to playing the piano, all things considered. And that's because for me, it's part of this holistic journey, like well-being that Aristotle talked about, of like eudaimonia. So essentially what I realize is, instead of asking how, it's better to ask myself, why am I doing this? And like that, all that means is the way is not important. It's why you're doing. If you have a why, you can go through all the circumstances. That's not what the circumstances are not what matters. It's more the way you view it, right? So you can go through hardship if you have a why. So yeah, that's the realization I had this week. I'm sorry it's a long video. Thank you.